Let's roll, baby. Welcome in a loaded Monday Ringer Gambling Show with the East Coast Bias Boys. As we now know, Super Bowl 60, signed, sealed, delivered. It'll be the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. In newsflash, you're probably going to see the Malcolm Butler play about 10 zillion times between now and whenever this game is played in Santa Clara, California. Let's welcome in the triple threat. John Jastremski bunkering down after all the snow in New York City. Joe House in Washington, D.C. Raheem the Dream Palmer in Las Vegas. And, boys, we'll start with the aftermath of the NFC Championship game. And, House, I'll start with you. It was a classic game. It was a fantastic game. Super well played. Super entertaining. And yet, it went very unaccording to script, at least as far as I'm concerned. Why do I say that? The Los Angeles Rams were able to move the ball at will on the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, the Los Angeles Rams stalled out in a critical third and fourth down scenario. But for someone that has been kind of the leader of the Sam Darnold Haterade Club, we had our debate on the Ringer Sunday pregame when me and Raheem the Dream Palmer were heads up in this game. I went with the Los Angeles Rams not only because of my futures bet, but because of the fact that I was going to look at Matthew Stafford, I was going to look at Sean McVay and say, hey, that's the coach and the quarterback I trust more in this game that's super tight around the margins. You know what? House, Sam Darnold answered the bell every drive, every moment. This was not a case of the Seattle Seahawks relying on their defense, relying on their running game, relying on Mike McDonald. Sam Darnold, hey, he got to the Super Bowl before Josh Allen after all, House. He did it.
The Ringer Gambling Show is presented by FanDuel. FanDuel's got it all. Same game parlays, quick bets for jumping in live and your way so you could build the best bet that fits your play. Plus, don't miss out on the NFL playoffs all month long. Download the FanDuel app or head to FanDuel.com/gamblers to get started. You have to be 21 or older and present in select states or 18 or older and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut.
Yeah, I thought that game was an absolute masterpiece. It was the de facto Super Bowl because, you know, as the lines reflect, the winner of that game is indeed installed at a sizable favorite. And you know, the difference between those two teams is just razor thin. Like you can circle one or two plays, one or two sequences that was the difference in the game. And to me, it was the end of first half sequence that the Rams they had the momentum, they had the ball, they could have gotten to halftime with the lead, but they ran some plays, gave the ball right back to Seattle. Darnold took the Seahawks right down the field and scored a touchdown with under a minute left. And then the botch punt, the special teams thing. That's how close this game was. And even with that, the Rams had a chance at the end inside of 4 minutes with, third down and fourth down goal to go, chances to score and take the lead. Now, I still think that Seattle would have gone down the field and scored again. I mean, I was kind of rooting for it. But the difference between the two teams ultimately came down to the home field advantage, the Rams being 3 straight games on the road. You could see Seattle getting over top of them kind of at will. You could see them taking advantage of that defense. And I really want to give Clint Kubiak his flowers. That man was in his bag yesterday. It's truly a shame that he can't interview for the head coaching jobs that are open this week, because he deserves a head coaching job after the performance he put on last night in the NFC Championship game. But, kudos to Seattle. It's going to be a great Super Bowl.
Yeah, watching that game, I felt like the gap between these teams was larger than it even appeared. I think if there's no, taunting penalty, I think the Seahawks win this by double digits. I mean, if you look at what Seattle did, they dominated third downs, 7 of 13 compared to the Rams, 1 of 8. You look at what they did in the red zone, 80% touchdown percentage compared to 67. Like, I think the Rams, they got a lot of credit for, having a great offense, but ultimately their defense fell off a cliff during the second half of the year, and you saw it in this game. I think you look back, ultimately, the Rams lost this game when they lost their Week 3 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they also lost this game when they blew a 16-point lead to the Seahawks in Week 16. And Sam Darnold was able to get going, get some confidence, because you saw when he won that game, to come back from 16 points with 4 or 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and win that game in overtime and convert the 2-point conversion, it felt like the confidence of that game carried over to this game. Because if you look at the first 2 games in which these two teams played, Sam Darnold has 6 interceptions. And the Rams won the turnover margin 7-1. Sam Darnold didn't come close to throwing an interception in this game, and he was just downright dominant from the start of the game until the finish of the game. And, you look at, you take some plays back, maybe, the punt return, that the muff punt, but it still felt like the Rams had no chance at all of slowing down Sam Darnold in this offense. So got to give credit to the Seattle Seahawks because, look, I never saw this coming. Like, there's no way in the world you would have told me that the Seahawks trade for Sam Darnold and they're going to the Super Bowl. And there's a lot of revisionist history. People saying, oh, the Vikings should have kept Sam Darnold. He was terrible at the end of last year. They had to get rid of him. I thought they made the right move. Obviously, it didn't play out well. But, kudos to the Seattle Seahawks.
You know what? It's crazy looking at where we were a year ago at this time. Sam Darnold in Week 18 couldn't have played worse against the Detroit Lions. Then he goes up against this exact Ram team in the game in Arizona that was moved because of the wildfires. He stunk. And from that point, I was of the belief, like you, Raheem, Minnesota's got to move on. There's no way I'm paying this quarterback big money when I drafted a quarterback in the first round. They clearly would like a mulligan on that. And you know what, House? Let's be fair on Seattle. The 3 of us did a show back in the summertime, and we knew this NFC West was going to be loaded. Hey, the Rams, all the talent, all of the star power of McVay and Stafford, Nakua, Adams, we all like the Rams. There were questions about Stafford's back. They were clearly answered. San Francisco, we all like the Niners. We all thought they were going to be a quality team. I was dumb enough to also like the Arizona Cardinals as well, and we were like, okay, Seattle offensively, what are they going to be able to do? How are they going to be able to compete with these teams? You were getting insanely juicy prices on Seattle to win the division, on Seattle to win the NFC and the Super Bowl. Crazy, crazy stuff. So, yeah, you look at the course of the year, and by the time we hit the end of the season, you could envision a world in which Seattle was going to get to and, dare I say, win a Super Bowl. But back in the summertime, who on planet Earth had Seattle going to the Super Bowl?
Well, in fairness to us, and I think a lot of smart people that were trying to handicap that NFC West, the great unknown was the offensive line for Seattle, and it turned out that they were able to stabilize that. If you go back and look at all of the preview stuff, you're not going to find anybody that had the Seattle Seahawks offensive line forecasted to be inside even the top 15. Nobody had that. It was a bottom 5 anticipated offensive line. They had a really hard time last year establishing the run, which had Geno Smith in a lot of duress. They still won 10 games last year, the Seattle team, and their win total was 8.5. That's the market skepticism around where we've ended up. That's why they were a 60-1 ticket. And they were whatever they were to win the West. Now, I'll give shout out to the Podfather. In his preview,
he liked him to win the division.
He did. He liked him to win the division. And my skepticism was like, you put Sam Darnold under pressure week after week after week after what we had seen in the way that his season ended with Minnesota. I thought that was a tough recipe for them to overcome, but they figured it out, and that's a credit again to Kubiak. This is he came in and installed a scheme that let them basically take advantage of the guys that they had and let them figure out an approach, and it's just been unbelievable.
Raheem, you could take this to the bank. Clint Kubiak will be coaching an NFL team next year, and maybe it's the one Joe House that Tom Brady owns in Las Vegas, because he got a firsthand look each of the last 2 weeks of the wrinkles that Clint Kubiak can throw into an offense, and with the number 1 pick in Mendoza. I mean, maybe Tommy is doing a little recruiting on these visits to Seattle and is not just spending time in the Pike Place Market or he's going to get his Starbucks coffee. It's like, hey, Clint, I know you got a game plan to get ready for, but when you're done, buddy boy, Vegas, it's beautiful. You could coach Fernando Mendoza and you go from there. Dream, I get your point about Seattle, and I know that taunting call, if it doesn't happen, it's probably a double-digit win. That being said, the Rams left an insane amount of meat on the bone. And I'm going to put a lot of responsibility on a coach that I love near and dear. I am a huge Sean McVay fan. I am a huge Sean McVay supporter. I think he's a top 3 coach in the sport without hesitation. That being said, end of the first half, didn't like the way he schemed it up. You got to lead. Seattle's getting the momentum. You're basically running second and third out plays. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. The muff punt, House, you were all over it. I can't pin that on the head coach, but special teams reared its ugly head all season long for the Rams. Then you look at the third and fourth down play calls. They're inside the 6-yard line. How is Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams not getting the ball in that spot? Now, you want to blame McVay for the scheme? Fine. You want to blame Stafford? Fine. Can't be throwing to your third or fourth receivers. And then the end of the game, inside 3.5 minutes, I hated the time management. I hated the way he used his timeouts. If he's going to burn a timeout, he might as well challenge the Cooper Kupp play, for goodness sakes. I do look at that game and say, you know what? It was not Sean McVay's best performance. It was not.
I mean, you could say that about a lot of Sean McVay performances. I mean, like, look at what he did last week against the Bears. I just think the chickens have come home to roost on Sean McVay. We know he's one of the best schemers and play callers in the game, but ultimately, it's been his in-play management of games which has hurt the Rams, and this is another situation. I mean, he didn't even go for 2. I didn't even mention that, and that was a huge one. That was because they could have kicked that field goal. Excellent point, Raheem. Shame on me for not bringing that up and critiquing the head coach, because I said it live, Raheem. I go, what's the point of being down 5-4? What's the damn difference? Yeah, I mean, it's no difference at all. But I mean, like, this has been something that we've seen from Sean McVay for quite a few years now. And obviously, you can't criticize a guy like Sean McVay because he is one of the best head coaches in the NFL. But this is his weakness. And, you know, I actually think Seattle left some meat on the bone, because if you go back to the first half, there was a play where I think the Seahawks were at the 45, 50-yard line. Darnold fumbles it, and it puts them behind the sticks, and they end up having to punt. And then that's when the Rams took the lead. But ultimately, I mean, I'm watching the game, and the Seahawks had a 61% passing success rate. like they could not stop this team at all. And so I look back at last week. To me, the Bears were the better team than the Rams. And they should have made it through. So this is kind of what I got what I expected last night.
House, did you have a problem with McVay?
On balance, not really. I mean, the Rams were 0 for 7 on third and fourth down in terms of pass completion. Stafford was 0 for 7. So if you want to blame that on scheme, that I guess that's okay. But those are the highest leverage moments, the highest leverage plays. The Rams were not up to it. I did think that whoever had the ball last was going to win the football game. Now it just turned out, that the Rams needed a touchdown to go the length of the field for 25 seconds. So that didn't come to pass. But the way that both teams were exploiting the opposing defenses, there was very little resistance, and the game came down to those two sequences that we've already talked about. To me, it was the end of the first half and the muff punt, and that's how thin the difference was between the two teams.
Well, boys, the dream is dead. My Rams ticket goes up in flames, does not make it to Santa Clara, does not make it to Las Vegas for Super Bowl number 60. For those of you that bet Seattle at the beginning of the year to win the NFC and to win the Super Bowl, you're a genius. God bless. I wish I shared your vision, because that ticket right about now is looking super, super juicy. When we come back, there's another potential futures ticket that's looking insanely juicy. The Patriots are back in the Super Bowl. Sean Payton, what were you doing? We're coming right back. The Ringer Gambling Show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday. One last kickoff, the final chance to place your bets before the NFL season closes its tab. And if you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win, make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over and football is officially done. It's the last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com/gamblers to get started. 21 plus in present in select states, 18 plus present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Welcome back. A loaded Monday Ringer Gambling Show with the East Coast Bias Boys. It's John Jastremski, Raheem the Dream Palmer, and Joe House. And House, you kind of had a feeling when Bo Nix fractured his ankle right after the end of the Buffalo-Denver Classic in the divisional round that the winner of New England and Houston was going to be a sizable favorite going into Championship Sunday. And once the Patriots prevailed in that game, you could already mentally paint the picture of seeing Mike Vrabel and seeing Drake May in Santa Clara. That said, I look at this script with Jared Stidham at quarterback, who, yes, struggled mightily for a good chunk of this game. Yes, out of nowhere, we spent a whole lot of time mocking the weather here in New York and across the East Coast. You had a monsoon, avalanche, snowpocalypse, whatever you want to call it, from the third quarter on that changed the entire feel and calculus of the game. But it was 7-0 Broncos. New England's offense couldn't do a darn thing against the Denver defense. And I think anybody who listens to the Ringer Gambling Show House knows I'm usually team go for it. I'm not one of these old man, yell at the cloud, kick the points. I fight with a lot of these people in my life. And it's not you, House. It's not you, because we're usually simpatico in a lot of these decisions. I'm talking about some of the old 36 and 37-year-olds in my life that just love field goals.
Well, I'm becoming one of them.
Well, we'll get to that, Raheem. We'll get to that. But I want to make this clear. I was so pissed off watching that game at Sean Payton. And I know I had a Denver ticket. It ended up cashing. Thank goodness. At +3.5. House, you got a backup quarterback. You're about to go up 2 scores. Take the damn points. And you know what? That decision, combined with the Jared Stidham fumble, it's why the Denver Broncos are not going to be in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
Well, it's also why Sean Payton, his track record in playoff games over the last 6 times he's been in isn't very good. I think he's now 2-4, 2-5 over his last 6 and 7 playoff games. It's decisions like this, and he acknowledged that it was probably not the right call, and he tried to explain what it is that he was trying to do, because I do understand the sentiment that going up 2 touchdowns might have been insurmountable. Now, I don't know whether or not he had in his ear the fact that Denver, the weather, I mean, that was a hold my beer moment by the Denver climate, the microclimate there. It's like, wait a minute, the whole country's under snow.
That's what I was saying. I'm watching the game, I'm looking out my window, I go, it's crazier in Denver than it is in New York right now, House. I couldn't believe it.
And that was not part of any of the handicapping that I saw over the balance of the week, as we were trying to forecast how the game was going to go. Where the hell was the weather forecast? Now, I would have dismissed it out of hand because I have become a weather skeptic, but it really did have an impact. I don't really want to get too much into the X's and O's of this game. Okay, congratulations. New England beat Jared Stidham. Awesome. The thing that I did that I'm happy about is, as soon as that news was announced last weekend, I bet Seattle and New England to be in the Super Bowl. I bet Seattle to beat New England in the Super Bowl last week, and you know, I'm knocking on wood in celebration of the gambling gods. But there isn't really anything to break down from that game. The weather played an outsized role. The Denver defense was excellent. There's nothing to look at that New England offense and say, oh, you can't draw any conclusions from it, because the weather completely took away, all of it. It is the same suspect offensive line. It is the same Drake May that is inefficient. We've seen it all playoffs long. People want to do this thing. I saw it it was last night or today. Look at the defenses that Drake May's gone up against. And this, how about this? You know who's trending on Twitter right now? Trent Dilfer. Guess why? Guess why Trent Dilfer is trending on Twitter right now?
What is it? QBR in 3 postseason starts, something along the lines of that.
Every metric, any metric
you
you want, they're nearly identical to 2000 Trent Dilfer. So congratulations to the Patriots. We're here. Dream, I hope you have something more thoughtful in terms of a takeaway from that game.
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is really just the weather. Like, watching that game, and like, look, I know the Patriots got off to a slow start, but it felt like in the third quarter they were starting to figure it out. You had the long drive with the flea flicker, and they get it down to the 5-yard, or they get it down to the 2-yard line. They run that stupid run play, that loses yardage, and Rabel kicks the field goal. Broncos punt. Patriots get it back in the Broncos territory in the third quarter, and they missed a field goal from the Broncos 28. And from there, the weather just completely destroyed the game in the fourth quarter. And you had a punt fest, and you basically have Rabel saying, look, there's no chance the Stidham is going to be able to drive down and take the lead. So we're content with just playing the prevent offense and just kind of shutting it down. I think there's some head coaches, and there's some offensive coordinators like John Harbaugh and Todd Monken, who might have had Lamar Jackson out there just throwing at will and not running the ball with Derrick Henry. But the Patriots and Mike Rabel, they play situational football, smart situational football, in which they just said, look, we're just going to run, punt, period. And that got it done. So ultimately, I think the positive in this is that if you like New England, you're going to get some value on them for the Super Bowl, because there's not a lot of people respecting their offense right now. And their defense right now, I think it needs some respect on their name, because...
Listen, their defense has played brilliantly in this postseason. Now, I think, Raheem, to this specific AFC Championship game, because of the weather and because of the quarterback that they faced, I can't get nuts, but clearly... they've gotten Mr. Williams back on that defensive front, and they have generated far more pressure. They have completely shut down opposing teams' running attacks. Like, Denver had absolutely no way in the world of being able to run the football. But again, that speaks to Peyton. And you mentioned you are a new age guy, Raheem. You're as new age as it gets. Watching these games now, you find yourself in a position where you want coaches taking the 3. Because to me, in that Denver game, it couldn't have been more of a no-brainer. Thinking about the script, your backup quarterback, how you need to win the game, you just got to compile as many points as you can.
I think, and look, I know we criticized Sean McVay earlier, but he's a kind of a take the points guy, particularly earlier in games. And the one thing that I noticed is that when you take the points, you give yourself margin for error. You keep yourself in games. And when you don't convert on those fourth downs, you give yourself, like, you put yourself behind the 8 ball, because, you even look at that Rams game. They kicked multiple field goals, and they were in the game with a chance to win it. And I think ultimately, if you kick that field goal and you go up 10-0, now you put the pressure on the Patriots. And none of us knew the weather was going to come down the way it did. But if you're up 10-0, and now the Patriots got to play from behind in the weather, it's very similar to a baseball game where you're up 2 runs, and now the shadows have come in, and now the opposing team has to try to hit your curveball and your fastball with the shadows. So I just think ultimately, I think more coaches need to just, like, what's wrong with 3 points? Take the 3 points earlier on in games, and unless you're playing a Patrick Mahomes in an explosive offense where you don't have to score touchdowns earlier on, it's just better to keep yourself in the game, because ultimately you're going to have a chance.
House, gut feel. Denver kicks that field goal, goes up 10-0. They win the game?
No, they still lose the game. That Patriots drive that they pulled together in the third quarter, I think that they had possibly one more of those, and script wise, if they had been down, if they needed the touchdown, I think that there wouldn't have been that nonsense play. I mean, I I'm overdoing it here. I didn't think McDaniel was very good. Like I just don't understand why they don't run any play action. Drake May was not under center for anything. I don't know if that's because he was uncomfortable. I don't know if it's because they didn't trust the offensive line. I don't know what the explanation is. I haven't gone back and looked at the advanced numbers. I was sitting the whole first half like, are they going to run play action once? One effing time? They tried it one time. He was running backwards. He pushed the ball. It was on the 13-yard sack that he took. It was they'll give him credit for play action, but it was like the running back was 6 yards away from him, so it wasn't even close. But I just really had a problem with the way that they were trying to establish offense in the first half. Having said all of that, I never thought that Denver was going to win that football game.
Now, that's fair. The play that killed him was the fumble. You can't have that. You're playing a backup quarterback. I know, thank you, Captain Obvious, but it's true. Like, you, as a team that's behind the 8 ball in the way you're trying to move offense, can't gift the team a touchdown. Not in a game like that. Not when
it's literally backup quarterback clowny pants. Like, shocker. This dude who hasn't played any competitive football for a couple of years made a preposterous, game-altering play. That's what backup quarterbacks do. It's like stunning. Of course that he did that. He's a big dummy. He hasn't played competitive football. Whose fault is that? It's not his. It's the football gods.
Spoiler alert. Newsflash. I think Joe House can't wait to bet the Seattle Seahawks in 2 weeks. Now, he can give us 2 weeks. We'll dissect it on the Ringer Sunday pregame. We'll be doing a lot more on this Super Bowl. In fact, when we come back, we have the initial line for Super Bowl 60. A certain someone thinks there might be value in the underdog. Underdog in the Super Bowl has been rather profitable. We'll break it down. Coming up next. Ringer Gambling Show, Monday edition, East Coast Bias Boys. Now Super Bowl 60 is set. And it's a Jet fan's worst nightmare. I mean, either the New England Patriots with Mike Vrabel and Drake May are at it again, new coach, new quarterback, same old Patriots, or the quarterback they drafted 3rd overall in 2018 that, yes, has been discarded by a variety of different organizations other than the New York Jets, but still, the idea of Sam Darnold holding up the Lombardi Trophy, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a comforting 2 weeks for Jet fans, and I'm sure it's a win-win either way, although most of the Jet fans in my life are without question rooting for Darnold and are not rooting for the New England Patriots. Okay, Raheem, I'm going to start with you on this. Line on FanDuel at the moment. It's at 4.5. The money line, minus 225, plus 190 for New England. Total, 46.5. Yes, we are going to dissect this game every which way imaginable over the next 2 weeks, but you kind of teased the idea that there could be some value down the pike with the underdog Patriots. Explain.
All right, so I do like the under, but we're not going to get to that. Like in our group chat, I just was, kind of thinking out loud. And my gut feel is that 5 is too high. Like right now, it's 4.5 on FanDuel, but it was 5 last night. And you can find some 5s in the market. I look at this game and I say to myself, look, the Patriots, I know their offense hasn't been great, but the defense has been dominant. And the defense is definitely better than anyone that Seattle has faced in quite a while. It's definitely better than the Rams. It's definitely better than the 49ers. I mean, you go through the Seahawks schedule, I don't know if the Seahawks have faced a defense this good in a long time. And then, honestly, I don't know, outside of the Rams, I don't know if the Seahawks have faced an offense as good as the Patriots. And I know the Patriots' offense hasn't been great in the postseason, but, I mean, let's go through their schedule. Outside of the Rams, I mean, when was the last great offense that the Seahawks have faced? So I think it's a little bit of a recency bias that this line is this high. I think this line should probably be closer to 3.5 than it should be to 5. And 5 is always a weird number for me when it comes to NFL, because it's basically saying this team's not that much better than the other team to be laying a touchdown, but we think they're a little bit better than a field goal. So it's putting it right in that dead zone, and you kind of have to figure out which end of that dead zone does it land on? So I think a lot of the public are going to be watching the Patriots and say, all right, they haven't played well in the postseason, and They played 3 of the top 5 defenses in football.
House.
I'm sorry, but they have. So
House about to jump down your throat.
They have. So it's just for me, it's just like I just think this line's a little bit too high. I think the Patriots defense, as they're playing now, they can cause some problems for Sam Darnold. Like, I don't expect the Seahawks to go out there and have a 61% passing success rate. So I haven't made a bet on the side now, but I am really leaning towards taking the Patriots because I think this could be a Tom Brady-esque Super Bowl, like an early Tom Brady-esque Super Bowl. Like, I mean, you look at the first three-peat. Well, not the three-peat. The first 3 Super Bowls from the Patriots, Tom Brady wasn't the driving force behind that. It was Bill Belichick and that defense, and I think you could see a similar thing here with this Patriots team, but I do like the under 46.5. I think
that's what's standing out to me, House. I'm all over that under because let's just dissect the 2 head coaches in this game. Mike McDonald, defense. Mike Vrabel, defense. You get those 2 guys in the lab for the next 2 weeks. Vrabel and a resurgent Patriot defense being able to scheme up what Sam Darnold is going to do. I can guarantee you this. Jackson Smith-Njigba will not be as wide open in the Super Bowl as he was 2 weeks ago and as he was in this particular game against the Los Angeles Rams. Vrabel and Christian Gonzalez are not going to allow that to happen. I am telling you right now, no way, no how. I think the under is super juicy here. But, House, I'll throw this to you. If you like Seattle, don't you get the sense this is a game you got to bet right here, right now?
Definitely. And I, to your great surprise, am not coming in hot on Seattle. I'm actually kind of fascinated by this line. I mean, a couple things based on what you guys said. I'm not prepared to say that the Patriots are going to take away JSN. Nobody takes away JSN. I mean, good luck on that one. And the other thing is, I just don't know what to make of this Patriots defense because they just played 3 poverty offenses, 3 of the worst offenses in the NFL because of the backup quarterback situation with Denver. I mean, that dude literally threw up. It was a puke pass that he threw backwards. Like, how am I supposed to make any conclusions around that? The thing I'm kind of fascinated by is as time goes on, is this number going to go? What direction is this number going to go? Is it going to sit here at 4.5? Or people going to sit back and see some of the talking heads over this week and next week getting into the inefficiency of the Patriots offense and people will think that there's an opportunity to grab Seattle and people who watched the games last night? Or is it going to be like that Patriots, lore, the Patriots aura coming to bear? It's still, Kraft, and it's still, I'm sure we'll see some Tom Brady out there. Obviously, what you mentioned in terms of the last time these 2 teams played, which way is that going to cut? The thing that I did immediately was bet Seattle alt spread, Seattle minus 9.5 at plus 186 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Because I just don't think it's going to be around that price as if indeed people start getting excited around Seattle.
You know what? As I'm looking at the lines right now. It was pretty much 5 everywhere last night, and now it's like a consensus 4.5. I don't think this is going to move too much.
You think it's going to settle in right here, right now?
I think it's going to settle in, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all.
Boom.
I might find myself on the Patriots money line. I got 2 weeks to think about it, but my gut feel is that the Patriots are going to win this game.
And why would you make that case? Despite the fact that Seattle has, to House's point, looked like a much, much more complete, much better team.
I don't think they're a much more complete team. I don't. Like, I think Seattle has played – look at who they've played in the last 2 weeks. They played a 49ers team in which everybody was in the hospital, and they played a Rams team who, to me, they weren't the same team that they were earlier in the year. So they beat the names. So it's like, to me, it's like a fighter who, they're fighting guys at the end of their career and all right, it's like, and this is not to disparage Terrence Crawford, but he beat Canelo Alvarez, but he didn't beat Canelo Alvarez. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I do.
They beat the Rams, but this was a Rams team that should have lost to the Bears. They should have lost to the Carolina Panthers. So to me, I think these teams are much closer than what the line is saying. And I still got 2 weeks to think about this, but my gut feel is that the Patriots going to win this game.
Yeah,
or at least they're going to cover.
You're not one of the the majority here when it comes to this, because I think for most folks' house, they look at the NFC, which has been a better league all year. We've talked about the Rams and the Seahawks for a good majority of the last few weeks, saying, hey, these are the two best teams in football. Hey, the NFC Championship game is the Super Bowl. And I think the weather, to your point, Raheem, definitely played a role in this, in influencing what we saw in the AFC Championship game. And for New England, it was like, hey, you get a lead. Vrabel, you don't need style points. Run the ball, punt the ball. We're not going to lose. But in some sense, House, you watched the AFC and the NFC title game, and it felt like, to use a boxing analogy, Raheem, different weight classes between those two teams. That's at least the way I felt watching it.
Oh, I mean, we were watching two entirely different versions of football yesterday. Now, the weather was responsible for it, but the first half of that Denver New England game that wasn't affected by the weather was grotesque. There was nothing suggesting that either one of those teams could get on the football field with Seattle or the Rams. I mean, I think part of what's, sort of coloring my orientation is we regarded the Rams as one of the best football teams in the NFL all season long. All the power ratings had them in the top 3, and they never fell out of the top 3 in terms of power ratings. And when you went through the way that they lost football games, they lost games through shenanigans. Like they didn't lose games because a team went in there and kicked their ass. And the hard thing with this Patriots team, and why it's going to be really hard for me over the next 2 weeks, is what do I believe about this Patriots team? I don't know what the takeaway is. Who was the last good offense that they played? It was probably the Bills. Well, the
Buffalo,
Bills moved the ball
a
fine.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they
were up 21-0 on the Bills.
Right, and then the Bills had no problem whatsoever. Now they didn't have Chase on, they didn't have Milton. Like, there's a lot of different ways to try and handicap this, and you have to believe what you've seen over these last handful of weeks, but I can't. There are no takeaways for me about this Patriots defense when you look at the Chargers, the Texans, and Denver with a backup quarterback. I just don't know what conclusions to draw.
It's just a totally
Here's one thing I will say:
offensive line.
The
Denver had a
Patriots,
solid offensive line. I'll give them that, but the backup quarterback negates it. Go ahead, Raheem.
the Patriots have overperformed the market all season long. So, at what point do we say? And you could say the same thing about the Bears. They
Even
also
Seattle to some degree.
No, Seattle hasn't really overperformed the market.
From the
Seattle
beginning of
has.
the year they did. Maybe not midway through. They started adjusting a lot sooner, is what you're.
Well, actually, you are right. You're right, because they're 12-5 against the spread. The Patriots are also 12-5 against the spread. But to me, it felt like the Patriots, when you look at some of their games, they're 2.5-point underdog against the Bucks on the road. Everybody's betting the Bucks, and they blow the Bucks out. So it's just like all of these spots where you have sharp money against them, and they still continue to overperform. So I have a hard time saying, you know what? They're in the Super Bowl. They're catching 4.5, 5 points, and now all of a sudden the Seahawks are just going to blow this team out. And they just haven't been that team all year long. So at what point do we say, you know what? We got to give this team some credit and just recognize that they're better than what people think they are.
Listen, I think New England has distinguished themselves quite nicely throughout this year. You don't apologize for who you beat. The bottom line is get to the Super Bowl, and now 4.5-point underdogs. We'll see if they close as the biggest dog that we've seen since, Arizona, Pittsburgh? Going back to that great Kurt Warner, Ben Roethlisberger, San Antonio home Super Bowl?
I got a question for you guys
Yes.
before we move on. Outside of the Rams, what's the best victory the Seahawks have had this year?
I'd have to go through the schedule. Off the top of my head, I would say at San Francisco.
San Francisco was...
I'm just saying, Raheem, I don't have the schedule in front of
Yeah,
me
yeah.
so I'm spitfiring here.
We got 2 weeks to talk about this, so...
Yeah, it'll be fun. We can do
Well,
the same
boys,
thing with the
when
Patriots.
When we come back, we'll have a lot more on the early look ahead for Super Bowl 60. Is this line right? 3-and-out time. Anthony Dabbundo, our weather expert, our guy, is coming up next. It's 3-and-out time. Anthony Dabbundo joins JJ, Raheem, and House. It's Monday Ringer Gambling with the East Coast Bias Boys. And just for the sake of transparency, Raheem, did a little research during the break. A couple of excellent wins for the Seahawks that I want to address. at Jacksonville. Got to give credit where credit is due. A home win on Monday Night Football. Believe it or not, the mother, when we were out at Ringer Core Week, that was the nightcap against the Houston Texans. So those are good wins, Raheem. Got to give them that.
I mean, Houston and Jacksonville, they weren't what they weren't what they will become later on in the year. I'll give them some credit though.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Fan base to hate on me, but I'm just
No,
I don't know.
You're usually here for the smoke, Raheem. I don't mind you taking them on. Fair game. I want to acknowledge the schedule because we were trying to pinpoint a win. I couldn't think of one other than San Francisco off the top of my head, and we did a little research. You forget about games in September and October. Anyway, Dabbundo, hope you survived the snow. I'm glad I don't have to see my car anytime soon. And it's good to see you. What do you have for us? Let's go.
Well, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills with the Seahawks talk. I mean, they're a top 10 team by DVOA of the last 10 years. They've dominated teams, right? It's not just that they won all these games, is that they also won these games by margin. I mean, think about their wins against the Cardinals. And I know it's just the Cardinals, but they're up 30, in the first half, those kind of games. The Commanders, where they go to Washington in a primetime game and it's 28-3, in the first half. So I think what was impressive about Seattle is just how good they are as front runners. Now, as for yesterday, I think the story of the game wasn't the taunting penalty. It was special teams. And we knew, and we talked about it, and I even said it, and I just prayed that it wouldn't happen, that special teams would be the ultimate downfall of this Rams team. And sure enough, it was. And it's funny because there's a tweet that I put out a few days ago that Ram Twitter and Packer Twitter seem to have picked up on. And it's just how bad these two teams, plus San Francisco, have been at special teams the last 5-6 years. They've lost so many expected points. And it's funny because all three of those coaches, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, they come from the same family, the offensive guru family that maybe is overlooking some of the details of special teams. It's been a consistent issue, especially for Green Bay and LA in their playoff games that they've lost. And so now I think they have to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Rich Bisaccia from Green Bay, he might be, under some duress here. And
That's too
the
bad.
Rams,
I love the pit boss.
awful.
We wish the pit boss well after he took care of us house many moons ago as the interim head coach with Vegas. We like the pit boss. Hope he saves his job. Just saying.
And then the Rams, I mean, they had an almost deadly error against the Panthers, and they had an error that basically cost them 7 points. You could trade that for the taunting touchdown. They still might lose, but that mistake, it's just so costly. And McVay finally decides to put Kyron Williams back there. Why wasn't Kyron Williams always back there? Just tell him to fair catch it every time. You don't want him taking hits? Do that. That's fine. But this whole, dog and pony show that the Rams have put on special teams all season. I mean, Raheem, you talked about it too. Week 4 against Philly, they lost because of special teams. The game against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle earlier this year, Thursday night, they lost because of a Shaheed punt return. So these little things, these marginal things that do matter, just being completely ignored, cost them hugely.
That's such an excellent point, especially when it comes to the punt returner, Raheem, because before he muffed the punt, he actually muffed one that he was lucky enough to fall on the time before. So, like, when you saw him fumble the ball kicking off the third quarter after the Rams go and get a stop, I wasn't exactly surprised.
It's bad. And it's just, I mean, like, even, they missed the field goal in that week 16 game. So it's just like all areas of special teams. It's not just punt returns. It's not punt return defenses. It's every single area of special teams for this Rams team. It's just horrible.
And that's where, Dabbundo, I almost feel like a McVay has got to go and get one of these special teams extraordinaires. I always point to the Mike Westhoff example because he was the longtime special teams coach with the Dolphins, the Jets. Then he went with Sean Payton, and he was like a guy, if you had special teams problems, you bring him in, you say, Mike, do what you need to do. This is your baby. Clean it up. I feel like McVay needs that with the Rams, like a special teams savant to basically come in, take care of business, and let Sean McVay go and do his thing.
Yeah, special teams consultant. Should we consider career changes? I would love to be a special teams consultant.
Would you?
Seems like a fun job,
You're a weather expert, though. That's your job these days.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think there are two things that are consistently underrated. One is game management. Everybody should have a game management consultant. and the other one should be a better version of a special teams consultant. These little things, these little edges you can find. The game is so optimized now. Everybody's, got the X's and O's gurus. Everybody's got the rah-rah guy. The training staffs are so optimized, and these players and all that stuff. This is a $1 billion league here. Like, we should have people that can do a better job of managing the clock, of managing special teams than we currently do.
No question. Special teams, special teams, special teams. 1 down, 2 to go, AD.
Yeah, number 2 is just, I think putting numbers to just how bad this New England offense has actually been in the playoffs is worth discussing. They've taken 15 sacks, 51% pressure to sack ratio. They've been below average in all 3 games by EPA per drive. And if you just ranked all 14 playoff teams, only 2 were worse by EPA per drive these playoffs than the Patriots. And 2 of them were the Chargers, who the Patriots beat in round 1, and the Steelers, who didn't get out of round 1 either. So I just think that this offense has real question marks. And I think the biggest mismatch potential in this game as we look to the Super Bowl is just, what is the New England offense against a defense this good? Because they played 3 top 5 defenses, top 10, depending on what you think of the Chargers, in the first 3 weeks of the playoffs. None of them were good. They didn't play many good defenses during this regular season, so you don't really have a sample of games to judge them against. And if you think that New England's going to come out and struggle to score offensively in this game, that's kind of the open and shut case for why I think Seattle has the potential to run away with the Super Bowl. And I know it's going to be popular. It's probably going to be square, but it's going to be really hard. And I'm going to try to make the case for how they can do this, but I think it's going to be really hard, especially because we know New England's relying on big plays. Seattle this year, number 2, big play rate allowed defensively.
I get it. And I also think, House, it points us in a direction of the under, because Dabbundo brilliantly illustrates the concerns you'd have with New England and what they've done on offense in these 3 games. Their offensive line has had issues. I don't think they're all of a sudden going to get solved against Seattle's pass rush. And then the Mike Vrabel factor.
Where was that pass rush yesterday, though? It
wasn't great.
It
I
wasn't,
didn't
but
see a
how
huge
much
pass
of that
rush.
is
That's the Rams.
mitigated by the Rams?
That's true.
Correct.
It's the Rams.
Correct.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought McVay got the better of McDonald, really. I mean,
And
they had 8
so
yards of play at one point.
From a schematic standpoint, yes. But on the margins, AD made a lot of mistakes. Like at the end of the first half, I thought he handled that terribly.
Yes.
Terribly.
Game management.
All of the leverage plays, Seattle won. 0 for 7 completions on 3rd and 4th down, on pass plays. So there's the difference. I'm in this boat with you, AD. I'm having a hard time. But you said the square play. What is the square play?
I think everybody is going to be on the Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
So this is why I asked the guys earlier
I
about
made a
the
joke
line
about this,
behavior. Because if that's the case, then this could climb up to 6. I mean, if
see, I don't think they're gonna go to 6 because 3.5 was available, and they're not gonna want a middle, and I think there's gonna be some resistance. Like we already saw resistance because it was 5 yesterday.
It was 5 yesterday. Yeah,
so
and
it's just
the 3.5s were gone in 35 seconds.
And
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably going to be the resistance.
Yeah, that's fine. You're definitely allowed. I already bet New England Patriots under 20.5. I love the fact that it's over 20.
Might be the best way to play this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's around even money on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. You don't have to lay a ton of juice on that. We'll see how if it moves. I just was shocked by the total at 46.5.
Yeah, that total is really high.
Too high. Too high.
Outdoor game too. It's not like it's on the turf.
Yeah, in the last game,
still
it was
an
in
outdoor
Santa
game.
Clara for a Super Bowl.
Are they playing against, like, they're playing next to the electrical outlet or whatever?
Of course, it's right there.
I think you need sustained exposure for that one, but maybe you never know.
I missed something. That stadium's not going anywhere.
Over 2.5 ACLs, plus 180.
We don't want that.
Oh my God.
Right, AD, 2 down, 1 to go.
Yeah, my third takeaway is going to be looking forward, because we're all going to have this conversation at the start of next season. And I still don't know if we know how good the 2025 Denver Broncos really were. And it's so tricky because they had all those late wins And like, I think it's going to be very easy to come on, this podcast or any other podcast he listens to that talks about prognosticating the NFL, and everybody can hop in and say, well, the Broncos did really well in 1-score games and they had a lot of late clutch offense, and it's hard to maintain elite defense year over year. And so we're all just going to do the same thing. And I guess the question is, going into next season, let's say Patrick Mahomes is healthy for week 1. Who would you make the favorite to win the AFC West? Because I think it's a really fun debate to have now. I mean, obviously you can't bet it right now.
You
You
have
can't.
the Chargers with McDaniel as the offensive coordinator and maybe
Right.
a healthy offensive line. But to answer that question, AD, the Chiefs. And I was going to bring this up to the boys, and we can do this in later Ringer gambling shows. I would be far more surprised if the Broncos are back here at this time next year than I would be the Los Angeles Rams. I know Stafford's a year older. I know it's McVay. They'll find if I'm betting on one of those two teams to get back, better chance the Rams than the Broncos.
No, I disagree.
Okay, that's fine.
Mm.
Okay.
I think Stafford, he's not Larry Holmes status yet.
Can't be
But
Larry Holmes.
he's gonna win the
No, hear
MVP.
me. Let me finish my statement. He's not Larry Holmes status yet, but we all know quarterbacks are like boxers. All it takes is one hit.
And it changes the calculus.
It's down the street and around the corner. Because he
At
came
some
into
point.
the season with the back injury that we were concerned about. How much longer can it last? Because we saw Peyton fall off a cliff after that one Rams game. So
We shall see. All right, best bets before we say goodbye. We got about a minute and a half. House, take it away.
I'm sorry to do this. It's a money line parlay in the NBA. Dream and I need Minnesota to bounce back after
Oh,
their
my
poverty
goodness,
effort
Raheem.
yesterday.
oh my God, that was horrible.
Now, this
Terrible.
is a tremendous spot for Minnesota. All of the numbers, when you're a home team and you've lost, you were favored in a back-to-back situation where you're playing in the same arena. There's a great trend there. So I'm just parlaying them with the Houston Rockets, who are hosting the Memphis Grizzlies, minus 155. I'm sorry to everybody.
That's okay. A winner
NBA
is
parlay
a
minus
winner.
155.
We'll take a winner. Raheem, anything?
Let's go first quarter under on Hawks and Pacers. It starts about 40 minutes. The routine's all messed up because of the snow.
Okay. College basketball time, Dabbundo. Two amazing matchups in college basketball. You got Louisville and Duke. To me, a little too juiced, a little too overvalued. BYU, Arizona, Dabbundo, undefeated no more. Give me the Cougars outright. Late night, Monday night.
Ooh, I hope so for my Houston ticket that happens. I got 2 tennis bets. One is going to be tonight, Lerner Tien and Sasha Zverev over 38.5 games. And then tomorrow, Yannick Sinner in straight sets, minus 130.
That's what I'm talking about. A parting shot. AD, Raheem, House, JJ out. Be good, everybody.
Must be 21 or older and present in select states, or 18 or older and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. You must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 or older and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York in New York.